Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
So, in life, there's this saying, one step forward, two steps back when you're doing more harm than good. As it pertains to the Toronto Maple Leafs, what that appears to mean this season is one player plays good and two more will have just an absolutely atrocious game, costing the Leafs again because winning in October is apparently a foreign concept. Welcome into Game Over Toronto, where I'm going to try my best not to lose my mind because the Leafs, as you guys know, love to find new and inventive ways to lose, and I'm so fed up with it and I'm starting to lose my mind. My name is Zach Payne. I'm your host for this evening's program, where we are going to try to walk through this alleged hockey game. This was at least more of a hockey game than Tuesday against the Devils was, but this was even more frustrating. Not because the Leafs played poorly, not because the Leafs played worse than they did on Tuesday or last Saturday against the Kraken, but because the Leafs' effort was actually present for once this season, and mistakes, missed assignments, and shooting themselves in the foot cost them a very, very winnable game in Buffalo, and they are now below 500, which doesn't really matter at this stage of the season. But once again, the Leafs continue to drop points, very gettable points, early in the season that I guarantee are going to come back to haunt them later on as, seeding gets a lot more important. So welcome in, everyone. What is there to say? Aside from the fact that the Leafs are really frustrating this season, and that, man, even when they play good and better, and the effort was there. Two lines were good, two lines were bad. The defense was just bad, and there is one player in particular that I'm going to try to not run out of Toronto single-handedly. Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Yeah, we're going to talk about it. If you're new here, welcome into Game Over Toronto. What we do on this program is, we go through the game with you guys. It's a live show for, the purposes of talking with you guys and talking through our emotions together, because all of us need someone to talk to after that game and how frustrating that was. So what we're going to do, if you're new here, the way I run these shows is the first period segment is going to just be a game recap talking about the what. The second period is going to be talking about the big story coming out of this one. The third period is going to be talking about another story, and the fourth period will be a Q&A segment. Although if you guys are returning, you guys know this about me. I kind of just spend the whole show talking with you guys and make this kind of an interactive show throughout. So there's 7 of you in here. First things first, feel free to hit like and subscribe. It's a very small channel. If you do take 5 seconds to do those two things, it really helps the channel grow. And if you want to come, there's 9 of you now. So if you want to hang out and come hang out in the chat as well, drop your thoughts on this game below. And I promise I will get to as many comments as I can as we progress throughout the show. So, starting off, David W., welcome back. This regular season has featured the Leafs put up a win, regulation loss OT of 2-0-0. Good thing that's not how they keep track of the standings. When having allowed under 3 goals, over 8 games, the Leafs have allowed 3 or more goals in 5 of them, including 4 more goals in 4 of them. So far this week, the Leafs have yet to play a game in which they've allowed under 4 goals. Yep, that's going to happen. And the Leafs have not been good defensively, which is shocking considering how this team is constructed and how they performed last year with mostly the same team. The offense has also been a problem, but they at least tried today, so is what it is. Luke Venable saying, I hate October hockey. I do too. Remember when October hockey was fun? Remember when the Leafs actually started this season strong, back when these guys were kids? That was a good time. OKO Digital losing Tanev is apparently a huge problem. Yeah, and Tanev hadn't even been playing good, but the downgrade from Tanev and Morgan Riley is also arguably a bigger loss considering the events that transpired this evening. Those two being out and having Philip Myers and Dakota Mermis in, woof. What a horrible downgrade. Also, the Leafs keep giving up shorthanded chances for some reason. Well, it's because they keep doing stupid stuff on the power play. We'll talk about that later as well. It is just absurd. So, first things first, we have to start before the game. If to do a game recap, we have to actually start before the game because there was notable changes to the lineup. Like I said, Morgan Riley was out of this game. Chris Tanev was out of this game. Nick Robertson was a healthy scratch for this one, and the Leafs were debuting some brand new offensive lines after the fiasco over the past couple of weeks. Craig Berube openly challenged the top line, challenged Austin Matthews in particular, saying that he's tired of the experimenting he's had to do with the top line and hoping for some more possession and for that line to, get its you-know-what together. And so the top line in this one was Bobby McMahon with Austin Matthews, and William Nylander got promoted to the top line. Now, William Nylander did not finish this game due to some sort of injury that we'll learn more about later. However, I am happy to report that line actually did play pretty well. Bobby McMahon has been the most improved player from last season so far. He's been very solid. So to start this year, he's been throwing his weight around. He's been a lot less one-dimensional. Last year it was kind of just skate fast and in a straight line and shoot the puck. This year he's actually added some more forechecking elements because he's recognizing that he has the size. He was doing a good job getting in on the forecheck and getting in there faster. He's not as good on the forecheck as a guy like Matthew Knies. However, he can get into the forecheck faster than Knies can, and that actually did play a big factor with Matthews and Nylander on that top line, and they had a good game cycling around. The second line was Matthew Knies with John Tavares and Matias Maccelli. And, Knies, getting him away from Matthews for a little bit. I don't hate getting him to work with Tavares, who works well with other forecheckers, and Maccelli, who continues to be one of the most snake-bitten players on the team. He's making so many nice plays, and he's not getting rewarded on the stat sheet for it, unfortunately. But he's playing well, and I don't hate the fit there. The third line, this one was actually very interesting. Dakota Joshua, Nick Waugh, who we know that Craig Berube wants those two to play together, playing with Easton Cowan, who drew back into the lineup. And then the fourth line was very odd. It was Steven Lorentz, Max Domi, Calle Yarncroke. I don't know what the purpose of that line is, but whatever. It's a fourth line. Who cares? And then on defense, it was OEL with Brandon Carlo, and then McCabe with Benoit, and then Myers with Dakota Mermis, who jumped up 2 Dakotas in the lineup for the Leafs in this one. That's nice. So to start this game, the Leafs, right away, you could feel that they actually had a little bit more to their game, and it was more evident in the second period. But the first period, they, like the top line especially, they actually got possession in the offensive zone. They actually were skating around and winning board battles. It was such a revelation, and I can't believe that we live in a day and age where the top line simply winning a board battle and skating around the perimeter of the offensive zone is considered success. But that's how bad it had been over the last couple of games. Unfortunately, it didn't really matter because the Leafs would not open the scoring in this one. Just 4 minutes in, and this is going to be the theme of the night, as I touched on earlier, is missed assignments and mistakes. Now, for those of you who are returning, you'll know I've brought up the goal visualizer a couple of times in the past, and I'm going to do so again because I ignore that. Hold on, give me a second. I'm going to bring this up because I have to show you to remind you of how bad this was. So I'm going to bring up the visualizer here. Starting with this first goal. Is that mostly on screen? That's mostly on screen. That'll work. So if we reset here, this play starts, as you'll see, in the Sabres zone. The defensive pair of Philip Myers and Dakota Mermis is on the ice, along with the third line, essentially, with Yarncroke changing. So as they enter the zone here, you're going to notice Philip Myers and Dakota Joshua are going to double team a player in the offensive zone, Alex Tuch. And the problem that arises is, Alex Tuch keeps the puck while both of them are checking him, which is not a good situation, because now with Nick Waugh also trying to cover Ryan McLeod, the center, which is his man, to be fair, you now have 3 players covering 2 guys over here. You have Mermis covering the guy in front, and then Cowan is kind of in no man's land. That defensive positioning is also, I'm going to bring that up again later in the game, so just remember that. But now, Nick Waugh doesn't cover Ryan McLeod. This pass gets through, and now you have a 2-on-2 down here, and Cowan is understandably leaning to try to cover McLeod because you have 3 players on the wall. That is unacceptable. And then this pass goes over to Samuelson from McLeod, and he just has an easy shot. Stolarz is unable to make the save. There's traffic in front as well. Horrible situation to be in. And just like that, it's 1-0 Sabres. Now, thankfully, the Leafs would make up for that literally like 20 seconds later, where Oliver Ekman-Larsson in the defensive zone gets the puck off of a chance in front that gets turned away from Stolarz and then swatted out to the side. And Oliver Ekman-Larsson decides to just send a lob over everyone to William Nylander, who, oh my lord, finally gets a breakaway. And Nylander tucks it, finally gets a goal on a goalie. And the Leafs tie the game just like that, 1-1. Okay. That first goal against, bad defensive zone coverage, but you make up for it a couple of seconds later. The top line coming through. That was great to see. Unfortunately, it was just like a minute after that. There was 3 goals in like a minute and a half in this game. Now, Philip Myers and Dakota Mermis in this game, first games of the season for the both of them, and they were the makeshift third pair. There's a 3-on-2 chance for the Sabres, and Mermis steps up to try to defend the first guy, sort of. He sort of steps up, slows up, clearly trying to defend him, but not necessarily doing a good job. That guy sends a pass all the way. It might have been, was it Tage Thompson on that one? Hold on, I gotta see how this play materialized again. I have to remind myself, there was a lot of goals in this game, all right? And there was a lot of defensive mistakes. So it starts with Tage Thompson. He enters the zone, sends the puck across to Benson, who Myers is not covering in the slightest. So Mermis slows up to sort of defend Thompson, but doesn't defend him enough to stop the pass, sends the pass over to Benson, who is not covered at all, and Myers also doesn't cover the guy in front. Yuri Kulich is, I believe, how you pronounce that name. And Mermis, because he slowed up to defend Thompson, also is not defending him. So it is a 3-on-2 where basically no defense happened, and the Sabres complete a tic-tac-toe, rip it top shelf. That one I won't blame Stolarz for, and I don't necessarily blame Stolarz for a lot of these goals. I just want you to remember that Stolarz didn't help things, is kind of the theme here. Now, Leafs, they had 2 power plays in the first period. The first one, god-awful. Absolutely nothing was happening on the first power play. They weren't getting into shooting positions. They weren't moving the puck around effectively. They weren't being good. But thankfully, the second power play of the night, they actually did cash in on. And John Tavares, on the first one and throughout the game in the first period, he had gotten the puck in the middle of the ice a couple of times and just threatening. And because of that, when he got the puck again in the middle of the ice, the Sabres, they kind of just, the penalty kill sucked into the middle of the ice a little bit. That freed up Austin Matthews, finally beating a goalie with a shot and not getting a tap in or an empty netter on the power play, ties the game at 2. Nylander and Matthews get their first goals beating goaltenders. 8 games in, 7 games in, whatever. So that was nice. We go into intermission and it's 2-2. Now the second period for the Leafs has been a notoriously bad period this season. They have been horrible. And there's really no quantifiable way to explain why, aside from they just weren't playing well. This game was different in the sense that they actually were playing fine, but this again is where the mistakes and the missed assignments happen. So I want to bring up the goal visualizer once again for this third Sabres goal, because you're going to see, again, it all stems from a mistake. Sort of. It's not even that egregious of a mistake, but this is the consequence of puck watching and puck chasing. So on this play, you're going to notice the puck is in the Sabres zone. This puck gets swung around the boards to the guy on the half wall, and Michelli, Nyes, and Tavares all gravitate towards it. And the problem with that is they don't get back fast enough, which as a result, results in a 3-on-2 the other way. And this, again, Benoit and Myers are out. Thompson's going to drop this to Byram, and he's just going to slide back. And Myers is now covering 2 guys. Nyes chases the puck again, leaving Thompson open, and he buries one past Stolarz. That's another one. That's the first of the 3 towards the end of the game. That's like, I didn't necessarily need you to save that. It would have been nice, though. So that makes it 3-2. And then this play, or the Samuelson, his second goal, again, puck is cycling in the offensive zone. The Leafs are in a fine defensive spot, and then one pass back down the half wall suddenly breaks apart the entire formation. Steven Lorentz loses his guy backdoor. I showed you guys how Easton Cowan was kind of playing the middle when the puck was on the far half wall. Lorentz was doing the same thing, but when you do that, you still have to watch the guy behind you. For those of you who have ever played basketball, there's a theory when you're playing man defense in basketball. I know the Leafs don't really do this, but where you always want to have the ball and your guy in your sight line, right? So when you're going to play defense like this, where you're in the middle and you're cheating to the middle to try to help out in case a play breaks down, you still have to be aware of where your guy is behind you. Lorentz loses his guy. Samuelson gets it, rips it far side on Stolarz. And again, I didn't need a save there, but it sure would have been nice to get one in the second period from Stolarz. Alas, doesn't, and it's 4-2 after 2. The Leafs, again, down 2 in the second period in this one. It's been their worst period by far this season, and it puts them in a hole going into the third. Now, I've been very critical of Dakota Joshua and Nick Waugh this season, mainly because these are two guys that the Leafs brought in to help them reshape their identity. And these aren't the best players in the world. They're not the most important players on the team. However, they were brought in to get in on the forecheck and go to the net. And they hadn't done that this season. So imagine how elated I was when on a non-icing, Dakota Joshua gets in on the forecheck, wins a puck battle. It goes to Nick Waugh. He centers it. And Dakota Joshua goes to the net and scores. What a revelation. You go to the net, good things happen. Shout out to Easton Cowan for the little tap back pass to Dakota Joshua, who buries his first as a Leaf. Cowan gets his second point as a NHLer, second point as a Leaf. That was great to see. 4-3, and you have the whole third period to make up for it. Now, the Leafs admittedly did not do a great job of generating chances in the third period. Nylander also it was towards the end of the third where it's like, oh, why isn't Nylander out there? He left with an injury. And then the Leafs get another power play. And Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who was horrible in this game, on all of the power play. It's funny because he had 2 assists in this game. He was horrible. He makes a horrible pass. The Leafs make up for it, and then they get a good chance in front. Great save by Alex Lyon. Puck goes back to Ekman-Larsson, and he just lobs a grenade to the other team and gives up a 2-on-1 on the power play. Horrible situation to be in. You know what's a worse situation? A breakaway. And you know what happens? Oliver Ekman-Larsson slows down at the blue line and allows Alex Tuch to just skate right by him for a breakaway, and he buries it, goes backhand 5-hole on Stolarz. Again, I didn't need a save, but one of those 3 from the goals 3, 4, 5, all defensive breakdowns, all bad situations that the Leafs put Stolarz in. You gotta give me one, man. You cannot allow all of them. And that's the biggest difference this year to last year is Stolarz just hasn't been bailing them out. And now granted, the Leafs have also been horrible in front of him. I'm not going to dispute that. And they have not given him the best coverage defensively. However, at some point, you need an effing save. And Stolarz has certainly not helped matters, which is ironic because he called his team out after the Seattle game. And then the last 2 games, he's been bad. Straight up bad. So the Leafs lose 5-3 to the Buffalo Sabres. Now, good news, you get to make up for it tomorrow. You go back home. It's a home-and-home series. You get to play the Sabres again, although you're going to have Caden Primo in net, so maybe play better because that's a even worse goalie. In the one game he did play, he was not good, and you won anyways. You've got to be able to beat the Sabres tomorrow. If you lose both of these, I'm going to be livid. I'm going to lose my mind. Regardless, Leafs lose, and that is your game recap. I'm going to turn us over to our second segment. As I do, just a reminder to hit that like button and subscribe to Game Over Toronto with notifications turned on. We go live after every single Toronto Maple Leafs game. Follow the Game Over Network on social media platforms as well, as it just helps us grow in general. Again, small company, small network, and any little bit of support, we would super appreciate it. And speaking of support, our Patreon is down in the link in the description box below, in which also gives you access to our Discord server. So if you want to come hang out with some like-minded people and talk hockey, that's the place to do it. Go check that out as well. So, okay, I'm going to catch up on chat now because David's been going off. All right. Sorry. Forgive me, David. I'm going to skim through this and pick out the parts that I like. There's no doubt depth is such a serious problem that quite possibly the Leafs will skid to a mid-November point where they fall to 10 or more standing points out of a playoff spot. The depth has actually mostly been fine. Like, it's mostly been fine. The problem is the depth and the big boys never sync up. When, like, this was a game where Matthews and Nylander actually played unreal. Like, this was the best Matthews game of the season by far. He was skating with purpose. He was winning board battles. He was, like, single-handedly dragging his team to the offensive zone, still blocking shots, still being involved defensively. Nylander was flying in the first parts of the game. That I didn't even mention the play after his breakaway where he pokes it through like two or three Sabres, gets a breakaway, gets tripped down, should have been a penalty shot, and draws a penalty for the Leafs. And that was such an incredible play as well. Nylander and Matthews were actually good. It's just the rest of the team. Like, the first line and the third line, the Joshua Waugh-Cowan line, I liked. I didn't love the second line, and I really didn't like the fourth line, and I really didn't like any of the defense. Jake McCabe still can't handle a puck for some reason. OEL, horrible decision-making all night. Dakota Mermis is awful. There was a play where he just stared at the puck and gave up a chance as well, which was just a disaster. So if Matthews and Nylander can play like that every night, which they should, they're paid to, and then the rest of the team can figure it out, whatever. But the biggest problem is that either the depth is good or the big guys are good. There has not been that, like, the synchronizing of those two things, which actually will tie into the theme that I'm going to talk about in a second. PQ is very good. I should mention the Leafs did have a wonderful 5-on-3 penalty kill after two really stupid penalties. One where Domi's just getting his stick up in the arms of Dahlin, and yes, Dahlin kind of grabbed his stick and hooked himself. You can't put your stick in that area, and then Järnkrok, a careless high stick right away off the faceoff. So it was a full 5-on-3. And for some reason, that was when the Leafs decided to start blocking shots again and start playing with purpose. Apparently, they just have to be on the 5-on-3. The penalty kill's mostly been very good. And yeah. Okay, what else? Stolars has given up quite a few ugly goals this month. Yeah, he has. He just and look, the reason the Panthers let him walk into free agency is because he's a backup goalie, or was a backup goalie for them, and it wasn't worth it to them to pay him. Whereas for the Leafs, he was fantastic last year, and I do think he is a good goalie, but he's not Superman. You can't just keep throwing him, like, it's both. He has to be better because he hasn't been good. And also the Leafs have to do a better job in front of him. It's twofold. And we'll talk about the fact that reinforcements are on the way soon, but he's not Superman. I always get Luke Venables. I always get this far into the season and wonder if they're going to get it together. And then they get into November and then something clicks. And I'm imagining that'll happen again. High sticking is one of the stupidest penalties taken. Domi and Järnkrok apparently didn't get the message. Well, Domi's wasn't a high sticking. But yeah, Järnkrok, he was just getting his stick lifted and decided to keep lifting it. I don't know what was going through Järnkrok's head on that one. Regardless, the 5-on-3, Matthews and McCabe, for as much as McCabe can't handle a puck so far this year, man, that was an impressive defensive effort by McCabe on that 5-on-3. Matthews as well was fantastic. Like, those two basically killed that 5-on-3 by themselves. Nick Waugh, when he was out there, was also good. So, in the second period, I want to talk about kind of the theme that's going on from this game. And that is a concept that I'm actually going to borrow from football. Now, for those of you who don't know, big NFL fan, big football fan, Zach Payne 41 for some football content if you're interested. In football, there is a concept called complementary football. And what that means is when a team's offense will capitalize on the plays made by their defense. So if the defense creates a turnover, gets an interception or a fumble, the offense will then take that turnover, take the shorter field, and take advantage of it and go get points, right? Or if the offense, maybe they're struggling a bit, the defense will step up their game to help them out. And right, like, and special teams as well, like, everything works together. And I want to borrow that theory and that concept and bring it over to the Leafs. And I apologize if I look up at any point. I have the Blue Jays game on right here, which I'll also mention later. It's 2-2 right now, bottom of the sixth. Let's go. And the Jays have 2 on with 0 outs. Cool. The Leafs play the opposite of complementary hockey, or at least did in this game, and have a little bit in this game, or like this season. So when the Leafs make a mistake, let's say Austin Matthews makes a mistake, or, actually I could borrow from the last goal. Oliver Ekman-Larsson makes a horrible mistake, turns the puck over, and leads to a chance against. That's where Anthony Stolarz needs to perhaps help him out and make a save. And on that case, it's compounding mistakes. So this, like all these goals where it's one missed assignment, and then that leads to an overcorrection of the rest of the team, which leads to more missed assignments, which leads to a goal because the goalie doesn't make a save. It is just such a weird theme with the Leafs where, and again, to borrow from football, Bill Belichick, Hall of Fame coach of the New England Patriots, he once said, like this was a Super Bowl kind of documentary where the Patriots' motto was "Do your job." And the essence of that is you do your job well and you trust your teammates to do theirs. Because if you are doing your job, let's say you're Easton Cowan on that first Samuelson goal, you're trying to take away the middle of the ice and cover the defenseman on the backside. He's doing his job. But then his teammates make a mistake, which causes him to start trending over to try to help out because he's overcompensating, which then makes it so that he's not doing his job either. So his teammates didn't do their job, causing him to try to help them, which actually makes him somehow not do his job either. And suddenly no one's doing their job, right? You have to do your job, trust your teammates. If your teammates make a mistake, keep that mistake contained. You have to keep it contained to one mistake. The compounding mistakes and then the failure of the Leafs goaltending to bail them out of these situations when they do make mistakes, because mistakes happen. That's how scoring chances happen. Otherwise, there'd never be a scoring chance ever. Mistakes happen. And for the Leafs this season, those mistakes have not been one-offs. They've been single mistakes or missed assignments that cascade and lead to high danger chances that their goalies are not bailing them out on. And it's been a problem, especially in the second period where the Leafs are just unable to get out of the zone. They get circles ran around them. They didn't tonight, but in general, that's why the second period's been so bad. Yeah. Anyways, I didn't have a way to wrap that up with a bow. Again, mainly because I'm distracted by what's happening here. Let's watch a pitch. Varsho is 2-2 and just fouled off. Let's watch a good Toronto team. Hey, here's Blue Jays live commentary for a second. So because the Jays have 2 on, it's 2-2, 0 outs, bottom of the sixth. Varsho is in a 2-2 count. Let's live commentate for a second to take a break from the negativity of the Leafs. Okay, Snell's almost at 100 pitches. That one's in the dirt. Okay, 3-2. Anyways, so as it pertains to the Leafs, tonight was a step in the right direction in terms of the effort and the intensity and the forecheck and all that. But it was a step backwards in the sense that the sloppiness and the mental mistakes were much worse in this one compared to previous games. I should mention, the Leafs at least fought for each other. There were a couple scrums in this game where the Leafs were pushing and shoving a little bit more. That was good to see. It's just hilarious that the Leafs are simultaneously solving some of their problems and inventing new ones that we have to now talk about as well. I'm going to flip us over to our third segment. As I do, just a reminder to hit that like button and subscribe. Start getting your questions in now because, again, fourth segment's coming up, and I think we're going to have this be a shorter stream because... Varsho almost just went yard, just foul. Because the Jays are on, and obviously people are going to want to go see that. So we're going to keep this nice and short. This third segment is dedicated to something that actually has nothing to do with this game specifically. We've talked about how Stolarz has struggled a little bit and not had the best start to the season. And one of the reasons that he has played so much is because the other goalie has been absent. Well, as of this morning, Joseph Woll is rejoining the team, and he is going to start skating and getting back into game shape. He should be back within the next 2 weeks. So at least we have a timetable on it. Joseph Woll is going to play games for the Leafs in November. And it's so important. So important to get Stolarz some rest. Because one of the biggest difference, we talk about, okay, last year he was so good and Stolarz was fantastic. He only played like 34 games last year. Part of that was injury. Part of that was he was not an everyday starter, nor was he asked to be. Because him and Joseph Woll, the idea of having a tandem is you alternate. And now Joseph Woll's coming back, so now Stolarz won't have to play every night. And Woll is going to get in here, which is a major upgrade on Caden Primo. Hopefully Woll is also better than he was last regular season. So now, hopefully, with the two goalies, we get back to the two-headed monster. We can start getting into a rhythm. And that's the biggest problem, is the Leafs have not been in a rhythm. And hopefully, if the goalies can get into a rhythm, that helps the whole team. And especially if Woll's coming back from whatever kept him out of the lineup for the first month, Berube will be able to use that and be like, this guy missed the first part of the season. Are you really going to hang him out to dry in the first game he's back? And I think that challenge will help the Leafs. I think that will help them stay focused and locked in defensively, and then they can build from there. I think the improvement is coming. For as much as this was such a frustrating game, I think the improvement is coming. And I think it has to do with getting both goalies back in the fold. And also, the Leafs suck in October. This is a known thing if you look at their October record over the last few years. But November's coming, and I think for as negative as we've been for the last month, and we have been, like you guys all know, this has not been an easy month to watch Leafs hockey. I'm telling you, the improvement is coming. It's on the horizon. So just stick with it a few more games in October, and hopefully good times are on the way. I'm going to flip us over to our last segment now. Sorry, that third segment was kind of short. I didn't really have a lot to say. I did just want to mention that Joseph Woll is back and that he's going to be in the fold. And I'm very happy because I love Joseph Woll and he's my Pookie. So in this fourth segment, this is where we invite your questions. This is the Q&A part of the show. Of course, I've been talking to you guys throughout, as I always do. But if you have specific questions about the Leafs, about the Jays at this point, again, I'm going to keep an eye on the score because I'm pretty sure the Jays have the bases loaded with 0 outs right now. So I'm just going to pay attention to that a little bit as I'm answering these questions. So if I get my distraction or my focus pulled at any point, yeah, they have bases loaded with 0 outs right now. So go Jays. First of all, who's even at bat right now? Snell is done, by the way. He got near 100 pitches and they're like, okay, yeah, you're done. It's 2-2. This is a very winnable game. Oh, Clement's up. And he fouls. Okay, first question. From OKO Digital, do we think the top 6 stays the same for the next game? That, my friend, is entirely dependent on William Nylander's health. By the way, I should probably check on William Nylander's health. Let's see if Berube said anything. Because if Nylander's not healthy, obviously, it's going to be tough. Hold on. Clement. Oh, that's a base hit. The Jays are going to take the lead. Are they going to get 2? They're going to get, or is it just 1? I think they just got 1, but bases are still loaded, 0 outs, and it's 3-2 Jays. Let's go. Okay, William Nylander, we'll see for tomorrow. Could he possibly play tomorrow? Maybe, yeah, we'll see. Got to see tomorrow. Okay, so Nylander, to be determined. I wouldn't be shocked if he misses a game. If he does miss, you figure it out. But I think if the Leafs are mostly healthy, if the same health persists, I think you might as well stick with it because Matthews looked much better, especially with Bobby McMahon. I think I didn't think on paper that was a good idea, but McMahon actually played very well, and I like that. I like the third line of Joshua Waugh-Cowan. The second line, they need to play better. I think it has potential, but they need to play better. Although I wouldn't hate if they go maybe like McMahon, Matthews, Domi. Nyes, Tavares, Nylander. I wouldn't hate that. That might be interesting. Kind of sewers Matthews a bit with some worse players, but that's what you're paid the big bucks for. How long do we trust a Wool Primo tandem? 0 days. We don't trust Primo to be involved at all. And Primo's not. Or even if you meant Stolarz, Primo's not involved except for back-to-backs. When Wool and Stolarz are healthy, that's a legit tandem where they alternate. So the essence of a tandem is they alternate. We don't trust Primo in a tandem, period. And that was from Luke. Josh says, Zach, I know there's lots of negativity around the Leafs, and rightly so, but I just have to give props to the way they've handled the Joe Wool situation. Confidentiality and class from the Maple Leafs. Yeah, man. And this has been a thing with the Leafs over the past couple of years, is they've been a vault. You have not, since Tree Living took over, you have not heard anything out of the Leafs. Going back to the summer, there was zero peep about the Leafs being interested in Michelli or Joshua. Those two moves just happened out of the blue. The Leafs have been fantastic at keeping a lid on things, and I really respect that. Same with the Nyes contract, Tavares contract when they were re-signing, even the Marner shenanigans. We knew he was gone, but there was no word about him being what was going to happen until it happened, basically. Another question is whether the defense pairing should stay the same tomorrow night. They shouldn't, but it's entirely dependent on health. Whatever happened to Morgan Rielly, I hope Rielly can play tomorrow. It seems like he's a little bit less banged up than Tanev. I think when Rielly's back, they need him back so badly. OEL is a travesty on the power play. They need Morgan Rielly back so badly. So, but for one game, yeah, you can keep the same pairings, whatever. It's not much you can do. Easton Cowan, what are they doing with him long term? I'll give Berube this. They are giving Cowan the room to sink or swim, and in different roles too. I thought Cowan was good tonight. I thought Cowan was very good, and I think he earned another game. And it's not just the assist. There was the one play where it was in the defensive zone on the boards by the blue line, and he was battling against 2 Sabres, and he won that battle. It's those kind of small moments where you're just battling away that are so important for a young player. And Cowan's better than Robertson right now. And so in a fully healthy lineup, I don't think he should be with the Leafs. But with the injuries they have, he's got to be in there. He's been good. OKO says, I guess on the defensive side, it's a case of, can you cover the shortfalls of the lower depth players with the better players in some way? Or does that just cause more breakdowns? I don't want to end up in a situation where the Leafs are trying to overcompensate. Because I talked about that earlier. Let's say you put Brandon Carlo with Dakota Mermis. That's just going to lead to Carlo trying to do too much, and it's not going to end well. So you just got to have a really bad third pair, and OEL, and the big three, well, even Benoit, the top 2 pairs will just play more. I agree, even with so much uncertainty over the first game during which Wool would dress for a game. Yeah, don't worry about the when, David, when Wool will play. It's a long season. The important thing is that he's back and that he will play in November at some point. By the way, sorry, Jays check-in. Bases loaded, walk. So the Jays are now up 4-2, and we're almost back to the top of the rotation. So Springer might be able to come up with the bases loaded, even with an out here. And man, this could be a money inning for the Jays. Luke says, if they're truly resting Stolarz, it's got to be Wool/someone. When I say resting Stolarz, I don't mean nights off in the press box. I mean he doesn't have to play every night. That's all I mean. Resting Stolarz to me means he's just not the starter in every single game, and that in itself will be rest for him. I don't know. Given the last regular season, Primo and Svilovs didn't play well at the NHL levels for their respective teams. Yeah, I don't really care about the Canucks, but Primo against the Preds in his one game for the Leafs was not good. So the idea is once Wool is healthy or back with the team, then we just have to those are your 2 goalies, and I never want to see Primo again, honestly. Cowan is so hungry. Yes, he is. Zach, do we need to call the stream early so you can watch the Jays? Hey. I'm doing my best here. Okay, I'm just understandably distracted. All right. You asked a good question about Cowan currently in the official first. With Cowan, the decision with Cowan doesn't have to be made out until he's played his 9 games. Then you have to make the decision: do you really want to burn a year of his ELC or not? Because I don't think you should, unless he really proves that he should be there. What just happened? Sorry, I got distracted. The Jays scored again. And Springer's up with the bases loaded. It's 5-2. Man, the Jays are on a run here in the bottom of the 6th. I'll wrap up soon, OKO. All right, I'll wrap up soon. But let's go Blue Jays. The thing with Cowan is he's played, what was that, his 4th game, I want to say? Was that 4? Let's find out. If only I had access to the collective knowledge of mankind at my fingertips and could answer my own question. Easton Cowan has played 5 games. So you've got 4 games that he can play before you have to make a real decision. And that's going to be very interesting. That's going to be interesting. With that being said, folks, I think that is where we're going to wrap the show so that you guys can go turn on the Blue Jays before anything else crazy happens. Thank you so much for tuning in to this show again after another Leafs loss, unfortunately, but be patient. They're going to get better, and I think it's going to happen pretty soon. So thank you if you tuned in to this show at all. Make sure to hit like and subscribe. If you're listening on a podcasting platform, make sure to hit follow and leave us a review. You can find me on Twitter, Bluesky, and YouTube at Zach Payne41. You can find the Game Over Network at the Game Over Network on every social media platform. And again, thank you all so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys tomorrow afternoon. The game has been moved to 5 o'clock Eastern due to the Blue Jays. So make sure you're aware of the earlier start time. And until then, my friends, take care. Cheers.